Hi, my name is Alexis Martinez, and I am doing a PowerPoint presentation on Intro to Psychology, and it's covering chapters 1 through 8. So the first thing that I want to talk about is two topics from chapter 1, talking about Wilhelm Wundt and Sigmund Freud. And Wilhelm Wundt went along with introspection, and Sigmund Freud went along with the psychoanalytic theory. So Wilhelm Wundt was a German scientist and the first person to be referred to as a psychologist. He used introspection, a process by which someone examines their own conscious experience as objectively as possible, making the human mind like any other aspect of nature that a scientist observed. He believed people have free will. Now I want to talk about Sigmund Freud, an Austrian neurologist who was fascinated by patients suffering from hysteria. So he theorized that many of his patients' problems arose from the unconscious mind. He had done the psychoanalytic theory, which focuses on the role of a person's unconscious as well as early childhood experiences. So this particular perspective dominated clinical psychology for decades. So now I'm going to be talking about chapter 2, which covers psychological research. So basically, the two topics I want to cover is ethics, so research involving human participants, institutional review board. The IRB is a committee of individuals often made up of the institution's administration, scientists, and community members. So the IRB is to review proposals for research that involves human participants. Next topic I would like to cover is process of scientific research. So with this, there is deductive reasoning, which are ideas that are tested in the real world. And then there's also inductive reasoning, which are real-world observations led to new ideas. And these processes are inseparable, and inhaling, exhaling different research approaches places different emphasis on the deductive and inductive aspects. All right, so now we're on chapter 3, which is biopsychology. So biopsychology. So when we're talking about biopsychology, two topics I want to cover is human genetics. So genetic variation, there is an egg and a sperm, which they each contain 23 chromosomes. And chromosomes are long strings of genetic material known as DNA. So these sequences of DNA make up genes that control or partially control a number of visible characteristics such as traits, how you look, your hair color, your eye color. Another thing I want to talk about and cover is the peripheral nervous system. So this is made up of thick bundles of axons called nerves carrying messages back and forth between the CNS and the muscles, organs, and senses in the periphery of the body. Also, the PNS has two major subdivisions, somatic nervous system and autonomic nervous system. All right, so chapter 4, we're going to talk about the state of consciousness, and honestly, this was my favorite chapter. I just thought it was very interesting. So one of the topics was dreams, and I feel like dreams is just a very intriguing topic as is. So dreams and their associated meanings vary across different cultures and periods of time. Freud thought people could increase self-awareness and gain valuable insight to help them deal with their problems that they face in their lives through dreams. Another topic is insomnia, consistent difficulty in falling or staying asleep, most common of sleeping disorders. So these are often experienced long delays between the times that they go to bed and that they actually fall asleep, and some actually can't even fall asleep. So this is not common for people suffering from insomnia. to experience increased levels of anxiety about their ability to fall asleep, which also nowadays there are a lot of medications, but not everybody wants to be medicated to fall asleep. Chapter 5, I'm talking about sensation and perception. So one thing that we talk about is vision. So normal-sighted individuals have 3 different types of cones that mediate color vision, because some people are colorblind, and it is definitely usually in men that are colorblind, more likely to be colorblind. So each of these cone types is maximally sensitive to a slightly different wavelength of light. According to the trichromatic theory of color vision, all colors in the spectrum can be produced by combining red, green, and blue. 3 cones are receptive of these colors. And then we have sensation. When sensory information is detected by a sensory receptor, the conversion from sensory stimulus energy to action potential is known as transduction. And we do have 5 senses, which are vision, hearing, smell, taste, and touch. So now we're on chapter 6, and it is about learning. So we have observational learning. We learn by watching others and then imitating or modeling what they do or say. Research suggests that this imitative learning involves a specific type of neuron called mirror neuron, and then humans and other animals are capable of observational learning. The next thing I want to cover is operant conditioning. So organisms learn to associate a behavior and its consequence. So pleasant consequence makes behavior more likely to be repeated in the future. For an example, there's this dog, and when you teach a dog to sit and you give them a treat, that is a example of operant conditioning. All right, so chapter 7 is about intelligence. The 2 topics I picked here is cognition and language. Cognition, so cognitive psychology is a field of psych dedicated to examining how people think. This attempts to explain how and why we think the way that we do by studying the interaction among human thinking, emotion, creativity, language, and problem solving, in addition to other cognitive processes. And then next we have language. So language is a communication system that involves using words and systematic rules to organize those words to transmit information from one individual to another. So as we know, language is just the biggest part of life. That's how we communicate with each other. Without having a language to communicate in, I don't know how we would do the things that we do. So an interesting thing is that children from a very early age show preference to their mother's voice and appear to be able to distinguish between the language spoken by their mothers and other languages. All right, we have chapter 8, which covers memory. So memory is a set of processes used to encode, store, and retrieve information into the memory system. Once our brains take encoded information and place it in the storage is the creation of permanent record of information. Our ability to retrieve information from long-term memory is vital to our everyday functioning. So when it comes to memory, there are unfortunately some things that can cause us to permanently lose our memory or to lose a time of memory. So we have amnesia, which is long-term memory loss that occurs as a result of disease, physical trauma, psychological trauma. So there are 2 common types of amnesia: anterograde amnesia and retrograde amnesia. Anterograde is commonly caused by brain trauma, such as a blow to the head. And retrograde is the loss of memory for events that occurred prior to trauma. So that is my presentation on what we learned through chapters 1 through 8. I hope you liked it, and thank you.